Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. Tuesday, January 20th, 2026. Megyn Kelly's mad at Don Lebbins.
This is so infuriating. Like, it's actually making my blood boil. I want everyone in jail. I want all.
Everybody except the guy who shot the innocent woman in the face, right? Innocent, not necessarily innocent, but not dangerous, right? Unprovoked shot a woman in the face. Everyone but him. Like all these other guys, she wants in jail. She wants them all in jail. That's fucking Megyn Kelly.
All of them arrested. I just think that this is the line beyond which we cannot allow them to cross. I don't care if it takes the National Guard, if it takes all of Pam Bondi's DOJ.
So you don't care? You don't mind breaking posse comitatus? You don't mind bringing in troops? You don't mind violating civil rights? You just want fucking this. You want justice. He wants justice. Megyn Kelly. No BS, no agenda, no fear.
If it takes President Trump personally making a visit to this church, I don't care what has to be done, but this is the red line and they've crossed it.
Yes, of course, Megyn. My thought during your excellent monologue was, Megyn, how do you really feel? Will you please tell?
Okay, let's go to the monologue.
Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show. Anti-ICE activists reach a new low.
New low.
I mean, this is beyond. They've decided now, because there's been absolutely no crackdown by local police, that they can get away with storming churches and disrupting Sunday worship.
No way. They fucking had the nerve to do that bullshit. I mean, what is wrong with them? They disrupted the Sunday service. It's almost, 10 times worse than shooting a woman in the face. Again, I don't believe in protest, and certainly don't think that protest should involve other people's worship or whatever it is, right? I mean, whatever, you know how I feel about religion, all those things, but, it's at least something for some people. It's at least positive for some people, and it's not, protests suck. They don't, you guys know what I feel about protests. But her outrage, right?
It happened yesterday, and the city's Democratic leaders, as of noon Eastern today, nearly 24 hours later, have said nothing. Mr. Get the fuck out of Minneapolis tough guy, Mayor Fry, so quick to tell ICE to get out. Nothing.
Nothing. Look how mad she is. Look how mad. Look how angry Megyn is.
Nothing. He said not a word, which clearly means he's fine with it.
He is. He's fine with it. That guy's fine with it.
So is Governor Walz. They're fine seeing Christians, including children, harassed.
No way. They were harassed. Did they shoot anybody in the face? Because, that's the bar here that we're talking about. We're talking about an ICE agent, a Trump ICE agent shooting a woman in the face that wasn't in self-defense, no matter what these fucking people say, and not being even investigated for it. And so that's what you're up against, right? Now, like I said, I don't agree with protests. And I certainly don't think you should invade other people's churches, right? Who are not ICE agents. So this is just whatever. This is all bullshit anyway. Like, it's not real. This is just, left-right stuff that's going on, for everybody to get outraged about. This is all fake and all performative. But still, we're watching a TV show and we're analyzing it, right? And the shooting a woman in the face is way worse than going into people's churches, right? Like if they went in the church and started shooting people in the face, then that would be the same thing, right? If that was what was happening. But it's probably going to, I haven't seen the protests yet. I hope she's going to show something here. I think Don Lemon said, here it is. All right, let's get out of her bullshit. Let's go watch what she's.
They tried to blast Christian music to try to drown out the absurd calls of these so-called protesters, these terrorists.
Terrorists, are they? See, this is why they want to invoke martial law, and they want you to agree to it. You're a Megyn Kelly fan. You're already a dumb fuck who listens to Megyn Kelly, and the rest of that implies. But they want you to sign off on martial law. That's what they're pushing for, right?
And just seconds into the protest, I'm using that word very facetiously. This was not a protest. This is terror. This is terrorism.
It's terrorism right here. Look at these terrorists.
You can see one small child upset in a pew and being comforted by his dad. This is so sad. Imagine your little boy not knowing what to make of this, not knowing where it was going.
It's so sad. Let's just show the thing here.
Screaming.
Side of synagogues. So these people have to worry about whether they are just going to be allowed to worship or whether they're going to get hurt and their children are going to get hurt. You can't be sure, can you? Sadly, in this day and age.
Oh, it can't be, Megan. It can't be. When you guys elected Trump, this is what you signed on for. And when you supported Trump with his bullshit ICE thing and his martial law plans and his just being a total piece of shit, just like the people who voted for Biden and supported a fucking senile fuck and allowed him to censor, everybody on the internet, all these big platforms and all the other bullshit they did and push for this, all this stuff with the trans athletes and all that bullshit. You knew there was going to be a backlash. And the backlash came in the form of Trump 2.0. So the liberals are all paying for their bullshit with Biden. And now the conservatives are going to pay for their bullshit with Trump, right? This is, you're literally contributing to voting for the destruction of your country and the lifestyle that you enjoy. And just every time you get angry and you feed into this fucking bullshit narrative and all these things, these performative things.
Don Lemon, who was totally enjoying his moment in the spotlight, also catching footage of an upset parishioner trying to get the protesters to leave. But in true Don Lemon fashion, he justified the protesters' actions.
Sure, people here don't like it, but protests are not comfortable. And there are people here who are, I'm looking at a young man who's in the corner. He's frightened, he's scared, he's crying. People are leaving church. So, yeah.
This is so gay. I mean, of course Don Lemon's there. It's because it's the gayest thing ever, right? Just fucking goofy. And, they want you to feel miserable. Just like you wanted them to feel miserable, like these right-wing people wanted the left to feel miserable when Biden was, doing all his Biden stuff. And all the Trump people started to gloat when Trump was elected and are gloating now and are happy with what there's going on with ICE. And, this is where you're this is like Civil War shit. I mean, again, performative and gay and whatever it is. But this is what's happening. It's to create outrage and the rest of these things, right? This ICE stuff hasn't ever been about immigration. And the right-wing people could have called it out. But they didn't because they're fucking shills. And you got these now fake truthers that are sucking up all the oxygen, right? All these people that I've been talking about. Candace Owens and that Kim lady and these other people who are, taking what we built organically, like average people built, normal people, not celebrity people, but normal people who are smarter and, see through all the bullshit. And there was, thousands of quality truthers and they've all kind of disappeared. I mean, it's just, or been disappeared, even if we're still making videos, they're not being shared or not being, promoted by YouTube and the rest of it. They promote these pieces of shit because they're pushing for division, right? This is a part of the whole thing. There's nothing to see here. And Don Lemons is a fucking ass clown, which I make fun of regularly. He's really fucking stupid. I mean, I said this with Trump. Either Trump is stupid or a criminal mastermind. He can't be both. When the dumb fuck liberals were pushing all this stuff with Trump, either he's really dumb and he's an ass clown and he's, incompetent and mentally, fucked, or he's some fucking evil genius. But he can't be both those things. Those are two, those things are mutually exclusive, right? They're not, you can't be a mastermind and a dumb fuck, right? I mean, you can do dumb fuck things as a smart person, but yet still makes you a dumb fuck, right? Like, you either have to be some criminal genius playing 5D chess or just some fucking bozo is put in there just, taking a fucking sledgehammer and breaking shit he doesn't know anything about, right? And so the same thing with Don Lemons. Like, Don Lemons, either a dumb fuck who just stumbled onto this internet thing, and now he's like, everyone's upset about him. He's a dumb fuck, right? You can't get mad at Don Lemons. Like, this is what stupid shit he does. He doesn't have the capacity to understand what's going on. And Don Lemons claims to be a Christian. Like, he's probably struggling with this because he talks about his Christianity. occasionally he thinks of himself as a Christian. I mean, just like most of these people think of themselves as a Christian, but they, I'm saying over and over again, almost every Christian would reject Christ. If Christ reincarnates and he's not going to come back in Christ form, because in what Jesus would you want, right? Like Don Lemons believes there's a black Jesus. Middle Eastern people believe there's a Middle Eastern Jesus. White people believe in a blue-eyed, Anglo Jesus, Caucasian Jesus. Like, which Jesus is it, right? So let's say Jesus incarnated in whatever form he took and started to talk about stuff. I mean, Jesus could even be around right now. Could be a human being right now making content, right? Like, so, or be out there some way. And he might not even know he's Jesus, or she. I mean, who knows what Jesus will be, what person, what form. And people, even if you went back in time and met Jesus, you'd be like, that's not Jesus, or, you'd be upset. Like most Christians would reject Jesus. And so that's the problem with Christianity and all religions. People make up their own, once the guy dies, they make up their own version. And so you have all these fake Christians, all this stuff. But these guys should not be in this church. It's goofy. Protests suck. And these people are, they may or may not agree. How everyone in this church agrees with what happened with ICE, right? Like, why this church? Like this, but again, this isn't about the church. It's about being performative. This is about division and shit like this that Megyn Kelly's doing.
Guys standing up now saying, get out of our church. He's screaming. They're trying to calm him down.
God bless him. What you can see is a parishioner yelling at the rioters, at the
terrorists.
terrorists.
That's not terrorists, Megyn Kelly. Come on, they're not terrorists. They're dopey liberals, right? They're dopey liberals. They should have been like a brawl, there should have been slap. At least there should have been like a slap fight at least, And so, I mean, it's so horrific. And fucking America's breaking down. What's gonna become of us, right?
Get out. Get out. He's screaming at them. Get out. And you've got Don Lemon's running commentary that protests are not comfortable. Guess what, Don? You're too stupid to understand the law, but this one also happens to be illegal.
Yeah, it's not illegal to shoot an American citizen in the face for no fucking reason and not be investigated. That's legal, right, Megyn? That's legal, Megyn? And so she's right about Don being stupid. All right, here's more here.
Petitioner or parishioners, something you, Don Lemon.
Like, just your fake anger. Like, where were you in anger when you became liberal? Remember when she became liberal and she was on MSNBC and she interviewed Alex Jones and, she buttered him up and like, whatever, that fake, those two, they're both shills, but, wherever that happened and she just like fucking destroyed him and he was all pissed off about it. She did the like total hit piece on him. And then she had a show on MSNBC and she was more liberal. And nobody liked her, so she came back and reinvented herself as like this, Tucker Carlson like truther, but like totally into Trump and, mild, not really criticism of Israel, but whatever mild stuff she's done there, but a complete shill and a complete piece of shit. And now she's all angry all the time with her fucking red background and her dong.
And all of your disgusting BLM terrorists are about to learn the hard way. During the protests, Lemon talked to the pastor who was leading the service and had the gall to ask him, don't you think Jesus would understand?
I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship.
But there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
okay, but listen, we live in a...
Your flock, your sheep, your fucking sheep. We got all these sheep in here. That's the other thing about Christianity, right? The Sizemore system, the meditation that I do, the first master of the system said, I want lions and not sheep. We permit sheep out of courtesy. We permit sheep, but we don't want them. We're not looking for sheep. We're looking for lions. We're looking for people who can be dynamic in their own spiritual connection to divinity, that they can be conduits and express it and, reach a higher level of consciousness. We don't want a bunch of, worshipers and followers who, mindlessly go along with whatever bullshit we tell them, because that's not real spirituality, right? That's, spirituality is that everybody rises up to that level. Like every saint, every spiritual master should want everybody to surpass them. That's like every parent should want their kids to surpass them, not be less than, like you have parents and kids competing and being jealous, like this whole thing. I mean, there should be like the idea that the kids are better than you, right? Like that's humanity going in the right, that's evolution. That's, moving forward in some direction, especially spiritually, more than anything else spiritually, right? But, Don Lemons is a fucking moron. Like, of course he is. He just walked backwards into this thing. I guess everyone's hating on him. I'm going to go see what he has to say tomorrow or later on today. I got a dentist appointment coming up. But this, I'm going to cover this stuff first.
There's a Constitution and the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
Yeah, but not in somebody's church, Don. They're fucking stupid. Like, what are you talking about? You want somebody to come to your house and do it? Like, you've come on, bro. Like, you guys know this isn't cool. Like, fucking...
We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here to worship
He's not pushing you.
Jesus.
Oh my God, he's not.
That's why we're here. Okay, that's why we're here. Okay. That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them as a Christian?
No one is willing to talk.
Okay.
Okay. Just like I need to take a deep breath. This is so infuriating.
It's so infuriating, Megan. You and your fucking anger problems. Maybe you could go to anger management. Figure out why you're so fucking angry, Megan. Maybe it's because you're tucking your penis right now. Maybe it's making you uncomfortable. She's just so angry. Just so angry with her with her genitalia being tucked and her Megan Kelly.
Some people are too stupid to be allowed into the news. And that's saying...
Yeah, Megan. Like you guys have wrecked the fucking truth community. I mean, it's already wrecked, but like you don't belong here. You're fucking building on something that, many of us built that was so much better than what you're bringing in with your bullshit. Your right-wing bullshit and your Trump bullshit and not calling out on the fake fucking assassination attempt and all the other things. And trying to rouse your... I mean, you've become Alex Jones. I guess you guys are probably pals now too, right? I'm sure they're pals. This thing where you're using your thing, just like Candace wants to manipulate your audience. I mean, you're betraying your audience. You're not going after Don Lemon's audience. You're bolstering his credibility. Don Lemons, I'm sure, is talking about how you guys are going after him, just like that fake beef he had with Stephen A. Smith, and he came out and talked about all things because they called him a sellout and like an Uncle Tom, and then Stephen A. Smith talked about all the ways that he supports these black organizations, and this it's all just it's just all left-right cover. You guys are helping each other out, promoting each other through these fake rap beefs and stuff that you do, and it's just really gay, and especially you, Megan. Okay, so some of the basic understanding of discipline and punishment, some of it has to do with the person that did the wrong thing, right? But a lot of it has to do with you don't want the family, you don't want like a Hatfield and McCoy and Hatfield type situation, right? You want some fucking blood feud, right? That's why they have, objective people who are able to, or should be able to, administer punishment, like, pound of flesh type of thing, right? Like this thing, because people are upset and angry and you're trying to diffuse the situation. So what Megyn Kelly and these fuckers should all realize, these right-wing Trump fuckers, these dumb, these retards should realize, and of course they're not, they're just shills and they're reading a script or whatever their handlers are telling them to say, is that you have to investigate. I mean, at very least you have to investigate, right? I mean, one of the reasons that cop had to go to prison, the George Floyd thing is to tamp down the temperatures, right? People want some kind of change. Like there's a perceived wrong that's been done to their community, and the left is like outraged, and Trump's like, "Fuck you." This guy was acting in self-defense, which nobody on the other side is going to see because it's not true, right? Only the right-wing dopes and the Trump people who are going to rearrange their reality, justify this thing that happened, which is totally wrong. Again, I think it's all fake anyway. But, by doing it and not punishing the guy, then the left is going to go and they're going to come up with ways to make the other side suffer, right? So at this point, I went to the dentist. I'm going to come back to what I was saying about the left making the right suffer. I have a story to tell about it. But I'm driving to the dentist, and, there's a lot of road construction here, expansion. I usually don't have to go to the city. I live out in the fringes of, a city area. And I'm going to the dentist. We found a biological dentist. My tooth is fine, by the way, those of you. I want to do a follow-up video about that. I had this tooth that 2 dentists said need to be extracted and replaced with another tooth. It was my front tooth, so it would affect my speech, and it was a fucking nightmare. It's still sore, and there's some issues, but, it's gotten better. My teeth are doing fine, and, so I've been using various things, which I'll talk about in some future video. But anyways, I'm driving. There's just like a pallet in the middle of the fucking road, like on the highway, and a big tree branch. Some truck must have dropped them. And then I saw there was this guy, Tim Pool, and he has his podcast on, the Timcast on a billboard, which I saw in Florida. I've been, thinking about doing this myself. I have a great idea for an image and a poster, and my wife and I have talked about it at some point. So if anybody knows anything about billboards and, things like that, real knowledge, not like just some fucking making shit up or just pretending, but like people who have done something like that, and anybody wants to share that in the comments or send me an email or message on Facebook or Instagram or something, that would be appreciated. Because I've thought about that. I'm not, I'm just in the idea stage of doing it, but I think it'll be something that could help boost this channel because, YouTube won't do what it used to do. Anyway, so getting back to it. So the Democrats want to make the Republicans suffer. Like, this is what happens when you don't have the authority release the pressure, right? A guy shoots an American citizen in the face. Everyone should be against that. Like, it just should be, especially the right wing. There's a picture, and I'm not sure if this is true. I saw maybe a headline of a video that the guy who founded the Proud Boys is now a member of ICE, right? And so, it's not okay when you, like I said in one of my videos, just because the liberals are annoying, it doesn't mean you get to shoot them in the face, right? Because you could say conservatives are just as annoying, right? So, like, those of us who are in the middle and we are, left-right paradigm people, we can tell you both suck, and we experience more of the suckiness we have more interaction with conservatives, so you guys aren't any treat fucking either, right? So, and you're just thinking that the liberals are so much worse than you. But the liberals, going into that church, whatever people that were there organically, and I don't know if any of them were, the reason they would do something like that is they want to make the right wing suffer, and you're not listening to them. So they're going to block your roads and just like, do their little bitch fest. It's this kind of thing I said and when they were doing it downtown area when they were doing the No Kings protests. They just want to irritate everybody because they feel like shit and they want to make you feel like shit. And so this is why you have to have some sort of, you have to throw a bone to the people that are victimized by or feel like victims of a certain situation. And so years ago, in terms of the meditation I do, there was 6 of these preceptors. People have special spiritual work done so they can give these sittings. And one of the guys was a sort of liberal. He owned I don't know how liberal he was, but he owned a computer store. Like he sold computers, back in this is the 90s. So I was there 1993, 94, 95. And then he was really into the Sajmarg meditation. And he went to India quite a bit. They had these apartments available. He traveled there all the time. He loved it. He really liked interacting with the master. But he clearly was not feeling the other people. He wrote, there was a kind of a joint magazine where all of us could submit articles and, things that we would write. I think I got a few things published. I was kind of new to it. And this guy wrote something called, "You Don't Judge the Doctor by the Patients in the Waiting Room." And he was struggling with this idea because in every spiritual organization, every religion, there's going to be some people you just don't like. And there's going to be a bunch of people that are have a different point of view in which direction to go. And there's always infighting, and there's always people that think that they know more on both sides. And then there's just people who suck, out and out suck. And this guy ended up struggling, and he bought he remodeled his business, and he donated a basement so it could act like a meditation studio. But apparently when he was in India, he came across, like, various people realized he had money, and they hit him up for money, and he donated, like, money. He gave money to some families so they could send their kids to school. And then he saw that these same families, like when you're in India, they have these things called tuk-tuk or auto rickshaw. And what they are is one wheel in front. It's kind of like a motorcycle with a place for 2 or 3 people to sit, 2 people comfortably, 3 people squished in. These little auto rickshaws. You've seen them in movies. And they zip around. They probably go maximum 35, 40 miles an hour tops. And they zip around. And, you're exposed to the smells. They're open air. If it rains, you get wet. It's not as good as a cab. There's no air conditioning, right? They're kind of fun. I think my kids probably preferred them. But, they're cheaper. In many ways, they're not as good as the cabs. And this guy, this preceptor I'm talking about, he started to see that people he gave money to were taking cabs where he was taking the auto rickshaw, right? Little things like that. That people would say how much they needed money, but they were living lavish lifestyles, comparatively. They were, if you were hitting other people up for money. And, some people had gone into business with other people, and there were some issues, and people got screwed over, this kind of thing, right? All the kind of things that I was kind of smart enough to avoid because I didn't have any money to, for them to, so whatever it was. But he started to, like, kind of get angry and seethe, and so he went in and he met with Master Charji, and I heard about part of the conversation that relates to what I'm talking about here. And, Master Charji answered all of his questions. And so there was a young woman who was married to an abusive guy, and there were people who lived at the ashram, rent-free, and they would do volunteer work. They would be assigned certain jobs and tasks. They were called the inmates. A lot of them were like young men who were like taking a gap year. Sometimes they came from wealthy families and things like that. But then there were people of a lower caste. And they were able to live there and live in a much better way than they would, and some of them were really special. I interact with some of them. There's a family that was kind of a lower class caste family, but they were like really spiritual, nice people. Me and the dad, I did some work with these container gardens. I was growing some food up there and managing some things that someone had neglected. And this one guy helped me, and he didn't speak really very much English at all, but really nice spiritual person, right? And there was a couple there, and the guy was beating the shit out of his wife. And so the wife ends up having an affair with another guy. And, basically kind of leaves her husband. And Charji kicks her and their new husband out of the ashram. And so this guy was very upset about that. This is one of the things he was bothered by. And he said, why'd you do that? And Charji, often wouldn't, give like very specific answers about things, but he did to this thing. And I heard this from this guy's wife. And what Charji said was, in India, it's a very conservative culture. And despite this guy beating the shit out of his wife, many people believe that that's the husband's right in the culture. And these are, lower caste people. And they're more against her cheating than they are against this guy beating her up. And maybe don't even recognize this guy did it, because he wasn't, it was his word against hers kind of thing. Whatever it was, they weren't quite sure about it. And he said, if I left them in the ashram, they would get, ridiculed and they would be the targets of all kinds of negative behaviors. And so, I did it for their sake. And he set them up in an apartment outside of the ashram and, just took care of them. And he was not, judging either of the situations. But, obviously not behavior that was permitted at the ashram. You can't beat your wife and, there should be no cheating and shit. Like, these are not things that, are of a higher nature, but this is, things happen and human beings are human beings. And so he answered these questions, right? But his question was, the answer wasn't whether the woman deserved to be kicked out of the ashram or not. It's what was better for everybody. Because if there was no authority, then these people would have taken it into their own hands, and that would have created all kinds of problems, right? The problems would have multiplied. So he had to make a decision that, and he was able to take care of them. The couple, ended up being happier anyway. They were free from the gossip and the dynamics of the culture and the people. But see, this is what I'm talking about. Like when you're in that kind of situation, you have to act for the greater good of the people. And if, another thing that happened recently, the Dallas Mavericks traded Luka Doncic. And it was this idea that they could trade for a defensive player, and Anthony Davis, who was always injury prone and much older than Luka Doncic, and trade a once in a generational player for really they got an inferior return. Of course, they ended up getting Cooper Flagg, the first number one pick, the first pick in this the following draft. So it seemed like it was all rigged. And the Lakers always have some, they always have to have a star player there. So that, like that's just part of the league, the whole rigged thing. But the fans in Dallas were they wanted blood. And they got this rookie player and they were starting off fresh this year, but the fans were still yelling, "Fire Nico." And this owner, some guy came up to the owner, some kid, and said, you need to fire Nico and he sucks. This whole thing. And he and the kid have this conversation. And they eventually had to fire the guy, even though it's clear this guy was just the fall guy for this thing. But the fans were never going to be satisfied until he was fired, right? They just, and now that he got fired, the fans are, they're not booing at the, they were booing and it was affecting the other players and these things, right? And so sometimes, you got to just appease the mob because it's just what you have to do, right? People are going to take matters into their own fucking hands, right? And this is, if you're complaining about these people going into churches, if you're a right-wing dope, well, that's what you have to deal with. It's on fucking you for not, for backing this guy shooting this fucking woman in the face, which nobody should be in favor of. Again, I think the whole thing's fake, but, it's just something that people have to understand, right? Okay, not really much to see with Don Lemons. He does a really bad man on the street. He's like one of the worst men on the street. Sometimes he gets owned by people on the street. They explain it, and he's like doesn't really understand, and he just like Trump, he, oftentimes he doesn't understand the narratives, and he gives away the farm like Trump did with gun control. Right? I showed you that meme, that whole thing. But Don, is being eviscerated by the right, and so instead of addressing what he feels about it, he brings in D.L. Hughley to do it. I don't think Don says very much at all here.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Don Lemon Show. Welcome to the special edition. Let's get started. Support comes from Z-Bio.
It's a special edition. All right. I should have.
Code LEMON for 15% off.
Boom.
Welcome to the program, everyone. Hello, Lemonheads. Thank you so much. Oh, wow. That was this morning. I had a little suit and tie on because I was hosting a Dr. King breakfast, which just was amazing. So let me just say this. Is there anything going on in the news? Is there anything happening in the news today?
Yeah, it's telling you just suck so bad, bro.
I got to tell you, it's weird sometimes when these things happen.
Hey, Lemon Nation. Like this, I mean, every time these people like write these comments and Don sucks, it's just like the world IQ drops, like the fucking, he's not the only one, but he's one of the worst. I mean, it's the same thing with Megyn Kelly. Like it's degrading humanity. Like these people are, for the most part, I mean, I think Don can write a little bit. I mean, I think he went to college. I mean, I don't know, he's so stupid, but I think maybe he's a slightly above average IQ, I don't think he's just 100 IQ. He's got to be a little bit higher than that, which should scare the shit out of everybody, right? Like he's not in the bottom 50%. I mean, obviously he's clueless and there's, IQ doesn't, I mean, there's people who are school smart but are really stupid, but, Jesus Christ. I mean, this is, he's not like one of the worst people. I mean, you see dumber people all the time than Don, dumber than Don, right? I mean, his audience has to be dumber than him for the most part. Like when you're listening to people, you listen to people who know more about, like when I watch YouTube videos, I'm listening to people who know more about something than I do. I mean, majority of videos I watch are either, if they're not for entertainment, and even that, it's stuff that it's entertainment skills that I don't have or whatever. Some comedians, some things like this. But if I'm listening to somebody explain something, it has to be that they know more than me, whether it's how to do something on Photoshop or or Premiere Pro, or to make to help me with my technical support for my apps, or it's something to do with farming or something. It's always people that have more experience and knowledge in a certain area. And so people coming to explain, what's going on in the world to them, Don is supposed to know more than they do, right? And that should scare the shit out of everybody.
Every time there's something big that happens in my life, I am the person who is like least connected to it. I've been sort of in a protected bubble. Last night when this all started happening, I was like delayed in an airport and could not figure out how to get, to get all the stuff that I needed, just trying to deal with like rearranging flights and all of that. And then today I was in the middle of this Dr. King thing, which was great to all
I'm proud of you, Down. You stood on business.
of the support that I got and the encouragement saying, we got your back. Don't worry about it. The number of attorneys who are like, this is a slam dunk. You better call us. We're going to mobilize civil rights attorneys, huge attorneys. So, we'll see what if I need any of that or any of that happens. But it just makes you feel good, especially the people who fought for our freedom, for civil rights, and who actually worked with Dr. King, reaching out and offering their support. So
See, look at all these people coming in. Thank you for standing up for us, keep making noise. None of that stuff's true. Like, he went up and he was an ass clown like he is everywhere else. He's gone to these places, these things, trying to be like he's in the news, like he's like a journalist. Like, he didn't do this shit when he was on CNN. Like, he didn't get out there with the mob and go, like do shit like protests, or when they were storming Capitol Hill and they were banging on various leaders' doors and talking to people. Remember all that shit he was doing? A bunch of people were going up to Capitol Hill, and it was just like a handful of people, and it was fucking stupid. It's always stupid. Like, it's always stupid shit. And Don makes it stupider. But then...
that means a lot to me.
But he's getting all this support. People are becoming members of his channel. They're donating, right?
The world to me. Another person that means the world to me is my brother from another mother who is always...
What other mother? What like, everybody else? Your brother from this means that they have a connection. But it's just like, someone who you're not related to, right? Is that what you're saying? Like, because, you can call him your brother. Sure, that people say that shit. And the fact that they're all brothers and sisters on a human level, even with the animal population. We all live on planet Earth, and we all are created by God. There's that aspect, our souls, whatever. But, there's billions of people. And, like I just talked about in my last video, oftentimes we don't like our brothers and sisters. Like,
he's there, and when I need to talk to someone and I need someone who's been there, I call it old heads, is Mr. D.L. Hughley, my friend.
Like, maybe the worst comedian of all time.
DL called me just before the show and cheered me up. And DL...
You're down in the dumps from all the right-wing people slamming you, bro.
Come on into the program.
Hey, baby boy.
On screen.
Baby boy.
Next to what?
Yeah, I've never been next to a black Klansman before.
Boom.
Don Lemon's gonna start Black Klansman 2. It's crazy. It's crazy.
DL.
It's crazy.
So you saw what's happening, right? You probably know more about it than I do because I've been so busy all day. What do you think?
I do. I think this is an example of them perverting Dr. King's legacy and the history of civil rights and the history of race relations in this country to their own ends. It's interesting that people are angry with you for, I guess Black Lives Matter found out that somebody associated with the church in St. Paul was the acting director of ICE, and Black Lives Matter staged the protest that you happened to cover. But what's more interesting is Black Lives Matter was protecting and fighting for the rights of Renee Good, a white woman.
Oh my God! So none of this stuff is like, you guys are just fucking clowns. You no matter who owns the church, this is like what I was talking about with Candace Owens, when she just randomly starts saying like everybody at Fort Huachuca is a piece of shit, right? Because there's plenty of people who've come through Fort Huachuca, and not every one of them is in some kind of Illuminati child trafficking, and maybe none of them are. Like, it's circumstantial evidence, right? But whoever ran the church, and whatever their connection to ICE is, that doesn't, all the kids in the place, all the place people that are in there, it's just fucking wrong. Because those are the people that are affected. And all those people could be crisis actors. Like this could be just some kind of dramatization for all the rest of us. But either way, it's pointless. Like it was a fucking pointless protest. And you guys are pitching a fucking fit because Trump is like saying fuck you. Like Trump is like fuck you. And you guys have no fucking answer for it. Like before you had an answer, like during COVID and, during the election and in 2020 and then, the protests and, but Trump is now just like, fuck you guys. I don't care. ICE can just start shooting people in the head. Doesn't matter who they are, whether they're American citizens or not or whatever it is. We'll just stay in self-defense. Fuck you. Eat shit. And, and you guys have no answer. I don't have an answer either, but I'm aware of the whole problem, right, of not having an answer. Like, sure, the midterms are coming up and Trump's not long for this world and, in 2028, whatever happens with the election. But, when Trump's gone, you still don't have any answers, right? You guys can't fix anything. You guys can't do anything to change the direction of this country. I mean, in terms of the Democrats and all these groups, right? And so just admit, like, you're fucking limp dick. You got nothing. Like, you're going into fucking churches to pitch a fit so you can get on social media and the news. And, it's just a fucking goofy thing. So then he brings in some other dude here and right here.
Do all the time.
Well, let me just give you of a particular religious leader, then people are allowed to do that. That's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah. Is this an attack on, to me, it feels like an attack on the First Amendment and trying to, and this is just my assessment. You don't have to agree with this, Mr. Attorney General.
Okay. So here's the issue, Mr. Attorney General. It's not an attack on the First Amendment. Okay. So what if those guys all decide, a bunch of thugs decide to go in some black church somewhere or some other kind of thing and just interrupt that? And it starts, a brawl. People come in with fucking clubs and baseball bats. Like, it escalates, right? You've never seen anything like this, right? So in India, when the British pulled out, and what the British did is they, in India, they have, especially in northern India, they have Muslims and they have Hindus. And they, whatever, the Hindus get along kind of with other people better than any other group based in their religion because they recognize the divinity in everybody. The divinity within me bows before the divinity within you. This is where the what's become Hinduism, Sanatana Dharma, was the original discovery of the soul. And so everyone's a little bit Hindu because if you believe in a soul, it comes from, that particular, I don't want to call it just the religion, but that spiritual movement. And there's wonderful things in it, right? But the Muslims and the Hindus, they would have issues. And of course the Muslims, history of like aggressive behavior, but certainly there's some likes of higher developed Muslims like those whirling dervishes and the Sufis. The Sufis have influence in what I do, the meditation that I do. The Muslim saints that are the Sufis, they knew about this transmission stuff that's done in my thing. And so, they kind of got along, didn't get along. But then the British came in and they did divide and conquer. And they created what's happened with the Democrats and the Republicans. And then they left. They got kicked out of the country. Gandhi was a part of that whole thing. And when they left, there was, now the Muslims and the Hindus who had been rammed up, had been fired up against each other, right, have been wound up by the British, went to war, and like they were in communities. And they were like throwing babies against walls and shit. Like it got fucking bad, like really fucking bad. If you ever see the movie Gandhi, there was like horrible shit going on. Groups of fucking citizens mobbing together and like burning trains with people in them and buses and, just fucking, just it was a nightmare. And the Indians are it's a very passive people, not aggressive like you see. Like the difference between America, where you have to be on guard all the time. Like people are aggressive. There's a certain level of hostility and immaturity in America that you don't feel when you go to some of these countries. And I certainly didn't feel it when I went to India. There's a peace in there. But they do go full mob Like they get every once in a while they get wound up into a full mob, and like that's the kind of thing you want to avoid. And this bullshit protest that happened, the Black Lives Matter protests and the other protests that happened, and the under Trump won, and then Trump not being able to do what he wanted to do and impose martial law. Now Trump and his people are coming in and they're going full fuck you, right? And they're going to just keep on going because their goal is what? Martial law, right? Their goal is complete totalitarian control of the country. And the way they get it is you guys protest. The left does, and these various groups. That's how they get it. And so you're feeding right into what they want you to do. This has nothing to do with freedom of speech. Like, this is just recognizing what you're fucking, just walking into a trap. As much as Trump got worked on COVID with the vaccine and shutting down the economy, the left is really feeding into this because the people running the left have the same, they're working with the same goals as the people running the right, which is because it's the same fucking people, right? They're running Trump and running you, and they have a desire, which is to grab a hold of power in America like we haven't seen before.
But trying to tie me as a journalist, to turn me into an activist, and I'm not. I was not there in activism at all. I was there just simply chronicling what they were doing, which is what journalists do all.
Okay, so first of all, calling yourself a journalist is like hilarious. But when you went up to the pastor and said, you think Jesus would understand? Yeah, it wasn't being a journalist, bro. As his fucking this thing descended on him. Was that pastor connected to ICE in some way? And I think the guy looked foreign or something, right? The pastor did.
The time.
Well, let me just remind you, Don, they're over here throwing comedian. They're over here throwing comedians off the air for telling jokes. So Jimmy Kimmel's is off the air because he's making jokes. They won't this the man.
Yeah, that was the thing that ABC did to promote Kimmel. It was completely contrived, and they were never. That was just bullshit, right? That was just a fucking fake as fuck.
King won't let
That was a false flag like thing.
say jokes about him. So the First Amendment is completely optional in their eyes. And let me tell you, the First Amendment includes.
All right, so I don't think there's anything here to watch. It'd be good if Don actually talked, because he's like stupider than everyone else here, and but he's not going to. He's bringing all these people in to defend him. But anyways, his show is booming. This was one of the best things that happened to him. He's being legitimized by the people who are attacking him, which is kind of hilarious. And let the punishment fit the crime. Here's a reaction. So here's her tweet. Nicki Minaj, Don cock sucking lemon is disgusting. How dare you? ? I want that thug in jail. He would never do that to any other religion. Lock him up. Okay, a little bit overreaction by Nicki Minaj. I mean, she didn't have to call him Don cock-sucking lemon. Like, what the fuck is that, Nicki? That's not cool, Nicki. And Don's not happy.
So people have been asking me about responding to Nicki Minaj's unhinged, homophobic tweet about me. I usually don't respond to this stuff, but let me just say this. Nicki Minaj, stop talking about shit for which you know nothing about. This is out of your depth. By the way,
Don, you should never say those words, bro, because you know nothing about anything. Like, your takes are always the worst. I mean, they're always the worst. Like, I mean, even if I agree with you, you still don't get why the take is right. Even if you're right about something, you still don't understand why you're right. Like, you just happen, it's like, like a broken clock is right twice a day kind of thing. You don't understand any of it. I mean, it's like you're the least comprehensive person out there. And I'm not saying, Nicki Minaj is some rocket scientist, because she was kind of goofy on the, whatever, that weird thing she did with Erica. But, like, you should never say to people, you should not talk about things you know nothing about, because that's your job. Literally, in the job description of the Don Lemon Show, it should say, he talks about things he knows nothing about.
and you are a homophobic bigot. You don't care about African Americans. You're not an African American. From what I know, you are reportedly an undocumented citizen, so you should be deported under Donald Trump's rules.
Wow, coming in hard. I wouldn't say she's homophobic because calling someone a cocksucker doesn't necessarily mean homophobic. It could mean like, like this guy knows the answer to whose cock you have to suck to get a job on CNN, right? You can say that about pretty much everyone on CNN. This guy literally knows the answer to whose cock you have to suck to get on CNN. Pretty much every woman and every person on CNN knows the answer to that question, right? Because very few people on CNN deserve to be. I mean, I guess they deserve it if they do the deed. But I mean, I think she was using it in a derogatory way, but we don't know, Don. Don, we don't know that. That's what we're talking about, Don.
And the other thing is that your family members, you have one family member who is reportedly a sex offender, the other family member, your husband or whatever, a sex offender is your husband, and one of them is reportedly a pedophile. And you have nerve to talk about me and what you think that I do?
What do you mean, what you think you do? Suck cocks? Do you do that, Don? Is she right about that, Don? Are you a cocksucker? Because if she's right about that, then you can't really say anything about it. I mean, she didn't call you a pedophile; she called you a cocksucker. And so, like, is that something you've done, Don?
Nicki Minaj, get a life.
See, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. So he says this thing.
You?
So then he's like, all right.
Nicki Minaj.
Okay, so then the wheels start turning. So what is he going to say?
Get a life.
See, it just doesn't work. Like, it's not working up there. Like, he just comes up with the boilerplate thing, get a life. She actually has a life. I mean, she has money and whatever she has. She's Nicki Minaj. Like, well, you don't think she has a life compared to what? I mean, not that I approve of any of these celebrities. I don't like any of it. I don't think, I think it's all just like it's a thing that you have to do to become a spiritual person. Like, I don't believe but it's certainly a life. They don't have a life of a soul. They're not connected to their spirit, whatever it is, right? But they certainly have a life. She has she hobnobs with celebrities. She has money. She has the ability to travel and and enjoy a nice lifestyle. Like, she definitely has a life. Right? You might not agree with what she thinks or what she says, or you might not like her. But saying get a life is not appropriate here, right? There's a lot of things you could go after her for. And all you said was that she's married to a pedophile and there's some other, criminal behavior, and she's here illegally and should be deported. But like that, none of that stuff, and you called her homophobic. Like, Don, you suck at this, right? Like, you can't look at Nicki Minaj and come up with something, right? Like, this is your response. She just trolled you with a message, and your response is just to babble on about fucking nothing, right? You're confused. Like, you don't know what to say. Like, you need a writer.
Stop being a pick-me. You should have put a pick-me doll on that damn tweet instead of a Chucky doll, because you are nothing but a pick-me.
I'm not sure what it means by pick me. But, like, he's floundering here, Don. You've got a minute and 13 seconds here, and you sucked on every level.
And I choose not to pick you. And so should black people, and so should gay people. Shouldn't buy your music. Clock that.
Boom. Boom. Drop the mic, Don. Drop the fucking mic. All right, so that's Don. So part of the thing with Greenland is Trump doesn't know the difference between Denmark and Norway, and he really wants a Nobel Peace Prize. He's upset with the Venezuelan leader. I think it's the temporary leader, because she got one or something like that. I'm not sure about, someone over there did. And he's so jealous of it, right? And awards suck. Like, if you get some sort of a milestone, I have a plaque somewhere in my closet where there's, the YouTube thing where I got 100,000 subscribers, right? And if I get 1 million subscribers, I'll ask them for that other plaque. But, it's never going to, it's just sitting there and I don't even know where it is, right? But that's an accomplishment, like a diploma. I have my diplomas somewhere, right? Whatever they are. And those are significant things of accomplishment. Awards are arbitrary. You know, when people give you an award, like they tell you, well, a medal of honor, and these things. You know, you are whatever you have inside of you. You know, that's the big thing of what I say about the Saj Mark. Whatever you are inside, you are. And wherever you are spiritually, that's where you are. Whether you have a good spiritual condition or not, and your spiritual approach, your proximity to God. And you're either moving in the right direction or the wrong direction. And awards and things, you know, even in terms of like, you know, having a Lamborghini or something because you made a lot of money. And, you know, whatever it is that you hang your hat on, oh, I'm not a piece of shit. I drive in a Lamborghini, right? It gets in the way of you, you know, actually focusing on being a better person internally by your external, you know, bling, right? But he's obsessed with this.
If anybody thinks that Norway doesn't control the Nobel Prize, they're just kidding. They have a board, but it's controlled by Norway, and I don't care what Norway says.
Because I deserve one. Because you know, I'm going to give myself my own Nobel Prize. Okay, so this video just is going to go next level. Today is Wednesday, the 21st of January. You know, I must be losing a little bit because there was an exchange in comments on my video on my other channel. And I said today is the 19th of December, which I don't know why I do shit like that, but, you know, I just do. And a person said, did you just say it was December? And another person said, yeah. And then he said, no, he said December. But it's actually January, and somehow I don't know why I said that, but I think during that, when I was making the video, there was something that I was looking up on December, and so that's what happened. But anyways, sometimes I just get the month wrong for some reason. So anyways, let's go next level. Bunch of shit happened with Trump. Megyn Kelly made another stupid statement, and then fucking Candace Owens, we're going to end this video with Candace fucking Owens. She just fucked it really bad. I mean, in terms of like, you know, she's a next level shill, like on top of being a complete a piece of shit, you know, in terms of her content and all the stuff that I've been covering. She just did something and her fans are fucking pissed about it because she's just, you know, I mean, abysmal. And I want to get into the whole thing with truthers after that. I'm going to get through the comments and then the rest of this. So here, let's get into it here.
You told Norway's prime minister.
Are you from Norway?
No.
You look like you would be from Norway. But she looks like she's from Norway. Go ahead.
You told Norway's prime minister that you not winning the Nobel Peace Prize made you feel less obligated to think purely of peace.
Well, I lost a lot of respect for Norway. And I believe very strongly that Norway controls the Nobel Prize. But you have to understand.
So I got another little video about this, something my wife just sent me. But like, holy shit. You know, he wrote a letter to him saying, because I never won the Nobel Peace Prize, it makes me less, what did she say? Let me see the quote exactly.
Nobel Peace Prize made you feel less obligated to think purely of peace.
Like, holy shit. I didn't win a prize. I didn't get, like, listen to this little fucking cunt fuck. This little narcissistic little fucking Lord Fauntleroy little fucking bitch ass baby, right? Like, this is not a fucking man in any shape, way, or form. Like, this guy, you know, I mean, I don't know how other people operate. Like, I don't know how, like, you know, this stuff works for them. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't know what I'm saying, so I'm going to explain it. You know, when I was, I've been a career underachiever. You know, somebody who had talents and, you know, abilities, but couldn't make them work in terms of the American system, our economic system, and our, you know, whatever. Like, you know, just a lifelong failure and loser. And so, you know, that came up with when I was going through my divorce with my ex, and she was, you know, I don't want to get into the whole thing. I've talked about this extensively in our videos. But, you know, there was this idea that she was trying to blame me for the failure of our family, which I knew it was, 100% her fault. Not that I was. There's no way we could. I could be attributed blame because she was sabotaging everything, right? Like, I mean, I could have failed, like, but I didn't get the opportunity to, right? So, because of her mental illness and her whatever, her just crazy shit that she was doing. And so she was like trying to blame me for everything. And it bothered me. It doesn't bother me at all now. And, the organization that shit the bed with the heartfulness and all this stuff. And so, some part of me wanted to win, prove her wrong. And with the success of the YouTube channel and some other things, I won. Like, I proved that, like, I was functioning and she wasn't. Like, she's doing nothing and, lifelong saboteur, right? Someone who, like, a succubus, So, but, that didn't feel that great. Like, the winning of it. Like, it didn't. And, having been a lifelong failure when I started to gain some success here on YouTube, I had videos that had millions of views and, lots of people telling me how great I was in various forms. And it just doesn't do anything for me because it doesn't mean anything, right? And so winning an award is like that. Like, you have to feel good about yourself. You have to be on the best thing is the best thing you can feel is when you're congruent with your soul. And you're doing, and I can speak from my, lifelong experience and I'm sure past lives. When you align with your soul's goal for you and you do what your soul wants you to do, you find your soul's purpose and you do that. There's nothing better than that. Like, I mean, there's higher levels of that. And so, winning a fucking award, and it's the world, and certainly America, the Americans that voted for him. I'm less inclined to think about peace. I don't want to think about peace because I didn't win an award. I'm not going to be peaceful. I'm going to be war. I'm going to be, the Department of War. This little bitch-ass motherfucker who ran from any chance of serving in Vietnam. You little fucking pussy. This fucking pussy, right? This was the President of the United States sending a letter to a small country in Europe, right? A small little country in Europe. And saying, well, since you never gave me a Nobel Peace Prize, I might just go to war. Like fucking little bitch-ass motherfucker, right? And this is the opposite of what Republicans want. And I'm going to get into that when I fucking destroy that cunt Megyn Kelly in a little bit. It's going to get fucking real today. Like, this is what this little bitch-ass motherfucker said, right? Like, he's willing to go to war because he didn't win an award. Think about all the American soldiers that are going to die and all the innocent people in whatever country he fucking decides to go to war with. If it's Norway or any of these people over Greenland, he's willing to go to war with these European countries over fucking Greenland. And it's resources. Like, these are countries with resources. Greenland has the same thing that Venezuela has, except not the, largest amount of oil, but it has all these, precious metals. There's a silver war going on. Solar panels are going to go through the roof. There's all these kind of things that need silver. Anything that needs, there's so many things that need, lithium and these, these rare earth minerals and things. And Greenland has them. And Trump wants to glom them. And Canada, I believe, has said that they will stand up for Greenland. And so, so that's what this fucking piece of shit has said, right? And, I mean, like, just a little bitch, fucking little bitch. And just everything that the Republicans don't stand for. He's become, and they're still lapping it up, a lot of them. I mean, this should be a 5-alarm fire. This guy just said it. In his official capacity as a president, he wrote a little whiny bitch-ass letter about not winning an award. A guy who fucking backed the genocide in Israel and has been bullying all these fucking countries, and he thinks he deserves a fucking peace prize, right? And even if he did deserve it and didn't get it, like, you don't write a little fucking letter like this. He thinks this is okay, and so does his people and his handlers. And the people running him, right? There's, Trump has handlers, people that can tell him to fucking shut the fuck up, right? Like, Trump knows who his handlers are. Like, they can wax this guy anytime they want. Like, Trump must be aware of that. They could just kill him. They could take him out. They could destroy him. They could do anything. They could release Epstein files and shit on him. there's all kinds of ways that people who could, the shadow government can destroy this motherfucker. And they're not doing shit. That means that they want him to do this. Right? They want him to destroy the fucking world. Like, he's just going fucking, like, just totally, like, this, like a mad king. Like, he's gone, like some emperor who's gone insane is just doing crazy shit. And people are just, all these yes men around him. The Republican Party and Fox News, and then all these people should stand up to him, and Megyn Kelly and the rest of them, but they're all fucking capitulating. And they don't even like this motherfucker, right?
Well, I lost a lot of respect for Norway. And I believe very strongly that Norway controls the Nobel Prize. But you have to understand, I settled 8 wars. I've had every one of those wars, every participant wrote, I didn't ask him to do it. They sent in strong they make recommendations.
Yeah, but of course, if you're being this much of a little bitch about it, then they did it on purpose. Remember, Trump brought these 2 guys in. They were from like Kakistan and two fucking countries that have been fighting, and both of them lavished praise on Trump because he gave them a bunch of American shit, right? He gave them our wealth so that they would both stop fighting. Like, that's not a settling a war. That's taking your hard-earned tax dollars and being, giving them whatever he promised these 2 guys, and they were falling over each other to try to tell the Nobel Peace Prize. He should, tell these people to give him a Nobel Peace Prize, because they both became rich men, right? These corrupt motherfuckers. Trump just gave them a bunch of shit, and they were like, yeah, sure, we'll stop fighting as long as you guys, America's going to fucking bankroll us. Like, he gave them deals and things. And, it's good they stopped fighting, but that's not like, he's not a peaceful person. He did that, and he was sitting there with a big smile on his face as they both, I could go back and find that video. I'm not, but like, it's there. I covered it. And he's smiling and gloating while they were talking about why he should get a Nobel Peace Prize. like this is his thing, Obama got him, and Obama got 2 and didn't deserve them. Obama was a fucking hard on whistleblowers, and he was a war president, and he did all that shit with Libya. He totally did deserve them. But fucking, this guy, this piece of shit. And so, this is you petty little fuck, right? This is what you care about? Like some bullshit prize?
For that. But I settled 8 wars. No president's probably ever settled 1 war. I don't know. Think of it. I did 8. The reason I do it is because it's easy for me to do. And I didn't do it for a Nobel Prize. I did it because I'm saving a lot of lives. I'm trying to settle the final one. I'm trying to do Russia-Ukraine. And when Russia's ready, Ukraine's not.
You think what you did with the Gaza Strip was about peace? You piece of shit, right? Let me show that video. Well, let's finish this one here.
Ukraine's ready, Russia's not. But they're losing 25,000 people a month on average, and I'm trying to get that one done. But no, I feel that Norway has tremendous control over who gets the Nobel Prize, despite what they say.
Yeah, but you did it before a prize because you wouldn't write a little bitch-ass letter to them, right? And you know what that says to all of fucking Europe? They're depending on America, and I'm not some big European lover. Whatever. Like, I know what Europe has. These countries are all different. I know these Europeans from the Sizemart practice, some of them, but the spiritual ones, right? So they're the best. Spiritual people, in some ways should be the best, right? The best of the best. And I traveled with a bunch of them this one time. I've told this story before. And we were traveling with Master Chargy, and we stopped at first of all, they put me in the front seat with the driver. And so there was a lot of people from France. There's a woman from Italy who she was the person, whatever, that was talking to everybody. There's a guy I came in with. We met he was sat next to me, just like not by choice. And the plane was almost empty. I told this story before. He was a guy who was living in England and teaching French, but he was a French citizen, and he hated France. And he had been burned on like 3/4 of his body. So he had bad burns, and he was struggling financially. He was like doing this trip like he could barely squeak by. So that was the whole thing with him. And then there was like the French, the guy who's in charge of France in terms of the Sizemart system, who I'd already seen be a fucking piece of shit, right? And we stopped at this restaurant, I had to apologize to the driver and buy him some shit because I was embarrassed by these European fucks, and they were such babies. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, again, these are spiritual people. People that are seeking God and coming to India and meditating and doing shit. Like, these are, I think people that are, this is the cream of the crop. And I'm not talking about New Age people. I'm talking about people who can actually, rise up to find the Sajmark system and become spiritual. And, I'm not a social person. You guys can see I'm kind of crunchy. But, like, the way that you treat people. And they were just treating this driver like he was a piece of shit. And I'm like, they sat me in the front seat because they thought they looked down at Americans and didn't want me, or whatever it was. Or that someone was doing me a favor. Because I did not want to sit with these people. Like, they were so bad. And we get to the restaurant. There was a kind of a neat guy that was he looked like a real tough guy. And he was like a gym teacher in France. And the food was taking forever to come because, like, the master charge was traveling with about 20 or 30 people, and he was like in one part of the restaurant, and we were all in the other part at the basement, and we all just came in. 60 people just came into a fucking restaurant, right? It was a nice restaurant, like whatever it was, but they were not equipped to serve that many people, so the food was coming out slow, and my table got served first, and this fucking guy from France walks up to this guy, this gym teacher, and takes his food and says, "I ordered before you. This is mine." And I wanted to slap the motherfucker. Like, like, I mean, like, it was just I was like, I can't believe you can suck this bad. Like, just as a person. Like, and I have hypoglycemia, and I can get crunchy if I don't eat, and I wouldn't, it's like just bad. No sense of I mean, when you meditate and you do these things, you should learn patience and tolerance and all these types of things. And, sometimes when you go through cleaning, but this guy's been practicing. He was the head guy in France. So I don't have any, the people in Denmark are great. I can say nothing good. I can say nothing bad about them. There's great people in every country that I liked, the people from every country. There's a woman from France who was giving me sittings when I was going through my divorce, right? But I don't have some big European thing, and there was always drama. In fact, I don't know if it was Norway, one of these countries, one of the preceptors ran over this woman who was herself. She was like a professional violinist or something. And she was like so drama herself. I mean, she hit her with a car. like, it was a whole thing there, right? So, and again, like there are gems in every country, and you meet some of these people. But like, I don't care about any of this stuff, right? I don't care about NATO. I don't care about whatever. But this piece of shit is willing to blow up, this relationship over not getting the Peace Prize and write a letter. You know what those people think about him? This American pompous fucking, this ignoramus. And this, so this is what we're talking about here. Okay, so more Trump in a second. Now, let me go to this other video here. So I got another, this is not the video I was going to go to. This is the one I wanted to lead with. So this happened, right?
Let me put this in words you might understand. Mr. President, off.
Hi again, everybody. It's now 5 o'clock in New York. One of those freeze frame record scratch moments. You're probably wondering how we got here, as the old saying goes, when those are the first words from the mouth of a Danish representative to the European Parliament, a far-right one at that.
Military put in precarious position as Trump threatens allies. Now, I was saying the Danish people are, let me go back to this guy. The Danish people are, of the Europeans are like the ones that I know, almost all of them are like kind of great. I got into an argument with one of them, this big fucking obnoxious woman. Because, I was just being me and, whatever. But for the most part, they're just really great. They are, there's more of them that do the meditation, even though it's a small country. The second master system went there as an ashram there. And, like all people, there's going to be assholes in every group. But, for the most part, they're pretty chill. And, Trump doesn't give a shit about any of this stuff. Trump wants something, he gets it. Like Trump puts I want Greenland. That's what this is about. Oh, I want Venezuelan oil. Like he just, when Trump was on The Apprentice, he would say this. Like he'd say something like this. Like he'd have they would do, Trump wasn't getting paid, just like he doesn't receive a salary as president. But one of these people, I think it was Jen Psaki, did a thing last night about how Trump's personal finances have gone up by $1.4 billion in a year. So he's grifting and making money. The Trump empire is growing. Of course, we're not even talking about the jet he's going to get and all this stuff. We're talking just about the crypto deals he's gotten and all the rest of it. So Trump is, grifting in ways Joe Biden wish he could, right, in terms of him and Hunter. But Trump would say in the apprentice, what he did was he got these, they would do some kind of a task, right? There was 2 teams usually, or, whatever it was, as it dwindled down to individuals. But they would have 2 teams, and they would do a competition and for some business-related thing. And whatever they were doing would get product placement, and Trump would get the money from them, like the product placement. If they were doing something for Coca-Cola, Trump would get paid by Coke, right? And Trump would sometimes promote his own bullshit. And he was selling something called Trump water, and Trump has had a lot of things go out of business. But he was selling water with Trump on his name. He wants to put his name on fucking everything. Big fucking gaudy bottle with Trump on it. Of course it didn't sell because people don't fucking like this guy. Even, back then when people loved him, when he's a popular TV figure. So no one wanted Trump water. But what he said was, this is a $17 billion business and I want a piece of it. And he would say shit like that all the time. He would see there was a business and he wanted a piece of that business. Whether it was Trump steaks, he'd find out what it was and he would try to do something. Most of them failed. Trump University, right? He tried to do all this kind of stuff. And, he would say, and he had no idea how to do anything. And he thought slapping his name on it, he'd be able to make his own fucking steak business and his own water business. And, most of these things failed. But this is how he thinks. And he says, there's a lot of minerals over there. I'm just going to go take Greenland. And he's going to grift. And, there's a whole bunch of money that they just got from Venezuela. And it's in a bank in Qatar. They got some kind of like big oil dividend that they're getting. And Venezuela owes everybody for some fucking reason, even though they have all this fucking oil. They have a fucking ocean of oil and they still owe everybody. And so, this is how Trump rolls. And he's just like, no self-control, no impulse control. And so let's go to this other little clip here.
Today, 2 things happened that are going to show up in the history books. Number 1, Israel demolished the UN's Palestinian refugee headquarters on camera with government ministers.
I don't know if this is true, but she seems pretty sure of it. She's pretty peppy. But, the second thing she's going to say is true because we just saw it.
Showing up to celebrate. And this agency, UNRWA, has been around since 1949. It runs schools for Palestinians. It runs clinics for Palestinians. It hands out food for Palestinians. For 75 years, it has been the thing keeping millions of Palestinian refugees alive. And today they just tore it down, while politicians filmed celebration videos. The second thing that happened today is that the President of the United States threatened to economically destroy 8 allied countries unless Denmark agrees to hand over Greenland. And when asked if he would use military force to take it, he said, no comment. And then
he actually said something else, which we'll show you in a bit.
He sent a letter to Norway's prime minister saying that because they did not give him the Nobel Peace Prize, that he no longer feels obligated to think purely of peace. That is a real thing that happened, that he did. I'm sorry, wasn't my generation supposed to be the one that couldn't handle not getting a participation trophy?
Yeah, no, you that was your generation. No, Trump is it's unbelievably, he doesn't even understand how that looks. He's breaking down mentally. And, this is bad because the people that handle him want him to go full Trump, which means just run this country into bankruptcy. Trump's gone bankrupt 6 fucking times. That's what he does. And he's had all these failed businesses. I bet I could just search for it and, there's a list of them. I'm not going to because I've named some of them. Trump Steaks, Trump University, Trump Water, right? These things that Trump tried to get into business and they were losses, right? He's a grifter. He's they said the people who did apprentice with him said they went to his offices and they had like a smattering of employees. Like he didn't have a big Trump business. Like and the boardroom was something they built. Like they had to build a boardroom because Trump didn't have any. Of course, it wasn't. Whatever his boardroom, it wasn't going to be like that, where he sat up on his fucking throne with two people next to him. Usually, and then it ended up being his kids after a while. But he brought in these people that supposedly work for him. And they said it was all smoke and mirrors, that it was all run down, his offices. Like he had like just nothing. And he was, he was just a failed businessman. He's a grifter. And he's always been able to sell himself to dumb fucks, right? But I guess banks as well and other people. And so, like, that's the first part. Because this is gonna segue into destroying Candace Owens and, whatever that means. I mean, just, we all know they suck, and Megyn Kelly. So this is all going to segue into that. One more Trump thing here.
Greenlanders have made it clear they don't want to be part of the U.S.
Well,
what gives the U.S. the right to take away that
spoken.
self-determination?
When I speak to them, I'm sure they'll be thrilled.
When I speak to him, I'm sure they'll be thrilled. Like and he actually believes that shit, right? When he tells them what he's going to give to them, and he thinks that they're willing to, they don't fucking trust him in this thing. They're happy with whatever they have over there. No one wants to be fucking taken over by some piece of shit like this. When I talk to them, I'm sure they'll be thrilled. In your own mind, yeah, that's going to happen, but not anywhere else, not reality.
How far are you willing to go to acquire Greenland?
You'll find out.
Holy shit, right? That moment. I saw this yesterday. This is the big one here. You'll find out? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're saying that you're willing to go to war. That's what that implies. With Europe, you'll find out. What the fuck are you talking about? You'll find out. You don't fuck around, find out. And, this fucking pussy, right? He's gonna start all these wars, and he's gonna cower under his desk when the fucking reality sets in, right? When nuclear bombs are going off and fucking, there's mass panic, and he's sitting there like he was on January 6th, hiding up in his office like a little fucking pussy. So this, fuck around, find out.
To go to acquire Greenland.
You'll find out. I think that we will work something out where NATO is going to be very happy and where we're going to be very happy. But we need it for security purposes. We need it for national security and even world security. It's very...
Only because America's hemorrhaging money and we're fucked. So he's trying to grab hard assets. Like, this is about grabbing hard assets. Oil in Venezuela and, and whatever else they have there. They have lots of wealth, hidden wealth, and they can't get their shit together. There's too much corruption, too much influence from foreign powers and companies. And then, the rare earth minerals in Greenland, everyone's trying to grab hard assets, right? And real estate, like all that stuff. So we already have an army base there. And even without America owning Greenland, like he just wants to put his name on it, they said they're willing to allow American companies to come in and mine the resources there. Denmark's already said that. Like they've already been doing that before Trump was involved. There's no Greenland issue. Gulf of America is just changing these names. He really wants to call it Gulf of Trump, right? He wants to slap that big gaudy Trump fucking name on. I showed you that after the fake assassination attempt thing when he had that, that gaudy fucking Republican National Convention. And that big Trump up there. I mean, they love his, he loves his name.
Important.
Greenlanders have made it clear they don't...
All right, so that's where we are. I was going to go to Megyn Kelly, but let's do that last. Because the Candace Owens thing will help bury Megyn Kelly's little hissy fit even more. And so that's what this fucking video is about anyway. Okay, so Trump just spoke at the World Economic Forum. I'm going to cover that in my next video. I turned it on, just a little while ago for whatever, must have been eating breakfast. And he was praising them for being so brilliant, and there's not that many smart people, and these people need to be protected. I think he was talking to the forum. And underneath it said, there was a ticker, a headline that said, Trump says he's not going to use force in Greenland, right? So, he's just a fucking mess. And I want to, unpack this in a voiceover after I get through all these clips. So Candace Owens stepped in, and again, she's hemorrhaging support. She's down to millions of views and not 2 million views. And this last video got 1 million views. Some more will trickle in. But she did something that her viewers are upset about, and it's completely hypocritical. So to start off with, when she came back from break, she said this. This is when all the people were setting in on her about Mitch Snow. And she came back and she was dismissing all this stuff. This is from a part called Fort Chihuahua updates.
Just pain Charlie to see everything that's happened since he passed. I think it would just pain him to see what Trump has become. He's become a deep state, obviously.
Okay, so he didn't become the deep state. He was the deep state, and you guys just didn't admit it. See, she can't admit that he's always been the deep state. And all these pieces of shit that, put out truther content and wouldn't acknowledge what was just right in their fucking faces, right? Like every person, if you voted for Trump, you voted for Trump. But to believe this guy it's not that guy, right? It's so easy to fucking see. You just didn't want to see it. And if you're putting out content and you were lying to your viewers, lying to yourself and lying to your viewers or whatever it was, but he didn't just become deep state, right? But she said he's deep state. So there she says it, right? So she's acknowledging that the guy is completely owned by Israel. He's compromised by Epstein, which means that he was a pedo enabler at very least. And so, he's always been deep state. So let me just say this about Trump. So this should be like, all right, this you can't there's nothing to say about what I'm about to say. It's lock solid. So Trump has always been a person, and you can trace it back to his very beginning as a businessman and probably all the way back when he was a kid. This is how his character is. And this is not like, you'd have to be 100% delusional to say anything other than this. Trump will always take the best fucking deal for himself. He's always looking for a deal, right? An example of this is RFK Jr. said, who's now, a Trumper, that when Trump 1.0, when Trump was president for the first term, they were talking to each other, and Trump was going to make him the health secretary then. And think about what would have been different, even with RFK Jr.'s many flaws, in terms of the COVID thing, had RFK Jr. been the guy, right, during COVID. But Trump then was offered $1 million by Pfizer, and he dropped RFK Jr. And so Trump has dropped all kinds of people and all kinds of different things for financial reasons. Him and Jeffrey Epstein broke up over a land deal, right? So Trump will always take the best offer for himself, and he doesn't care what kind of scumbags he gets into bed with. I mean, he slept with porn stars, like that's one level of that example. But the other thing in business, he doesn't care what kind of people it is, as long as they have money. And if they have more money than him, he's completely, he'll do anything. And so a guy like that is always deep state because he has no moral character. He has no moral fiber. He has no, he has no dogma or belief system. He'll sell himself to the highest bidder. He's always been that way, right? Whatever's best for him, whatever he's willing to do, he'll prostitute himself for people who praise him and for people who give him money. You want to own Trump, you praise him and you give him money, and he'll tell everyone how great you are, no matter who you are, right? He doesn't care. And so, I mean, he was even praising Jeffrey Epstein's, what do I always call her? Ghislaine Maxwell, because she had leverage on him. Like, she could expose secrets about him. And so he gave her a cushy deal. And, look at the kind of moral fiber he had. To give her a cushy deal, he sent in his personal attorney, who now works for the DOJ, and he sent in his personal attorney to make sure that she was on board with keeping her mouth shut about what she knew about Trump, right? She had leverage, and he had leverage, and they worked it out. And now she praised him and defended him. And then he moved her to even more of a camp prison than she's already in. And so that's the kind of person Trump is. He has there's nothing in him that wants to be a truther or feels bad about things and toss and turn at night because he's taken some money that from a disreputable source, and he feels bad about it, but he wants the money, but he's conflicted. There's no conflict in Trump. Like, he doesn't feel bad about doing anything, like taking the plane from Qatar. He doesn't feel any sort of conflict of interest. Doesn't even care about how it looks to other people. Like, he's taking a private plane from Qatar, and he doesn't give a shit what people think about it, right? So that's how Trump is. So to say he's just deep state now, what do you think? They finally broke him down. He was a good man. They finally bribed him, and they broke him down or threatened him and compromised him? No, he's always been fucking about. He's somebody who can be bought. You know, there's one good movie from George Clooney, and you know, it's the name of the movie is his name, right? George Clooney makes these movies that life is like is purposeless, like life. You don't have a soul, and there's no purpose or reason for your life. That's what his points of his movies always have, this depressive aspect. He made this movie called The Descendants, and there was one potentially funny scene that they used in the trailer then to make it look funny, but it was supposed to be a comedy, but it was 100% drama, and it was a bad movie, right? He played a guy with Hawaiian descent. He was with Hawaiian ancestry, and he was in charge of some land. And, some people wanted to develop it. It was a huge family, and he was the guy who was going to make the decision, right? Of whether to develop it or leave it in its pristine form. And his wife died, and he found out she was cheating on him. And it was like all drama and shitty movie. And his movie's like Up in the Air, that movie where, his whole goal is to get to enter the elite club of how many miles that you fly. And his job was to fire people, right? And there may be a few little bits that are funny, but these movies are depressing. They won some, was nominated for Best Picture, that piece of shit movie. But this one movie, it was called Michael something or other. Don't tell me, don't care. I could look it up. Michael Clayton. And in this movie, there's a guy who has a lawyer, and he's lost his shit. He's gone crazy. And he's represents this company, and he has given documents to this girl whose family has suffered, and she suffered health issues, like a community, because this company's polluting their area or something like that, right? And he's giving her documentation so she can win the lawsuit. And he's supposed to be a fixer. He's supposed to be cleaning it up, right? And there's, and it's a well-made movie. But at the end of the movie, they tried to kill him. And he's talking to that, that really English dudish-looking woman, the actress. She plays in whatever it is. I can't think of her name. But he's talking to her, and he goes, I'm not the guy you kill. I'm the guy you pay off. I'm the guy you buy. You don't kill me. You pay me off, right? Which is a great moment, because that's like a lot of people are like that, and that's truth, right? And Trump isn't the guy you kill. You can buy Trump. Trump is will prostitute himself. He doesn't give a shit, right? He has no integrity. And so, of course, he's always been deep state. So fuck you guys who all pretended he wasn't and pushed for this guy to get elected. And now you see what he's fucking doing. And he's losing his shit. Like, his mind is going. And he's lost his shit. He's a mad king. Like, he's like that fucking guy in Lord of the Rings, the guy who's in charge of the throne, right? He's the steward of the throne, the steward of Gondor. And he loses his fucking mind, right? Like, he's these mad kings, and they get mad with power in these people, and they, he can't step down for the real king because he's all fucked up, right? He burns his son alive, all that shit, right? And so, so there's at the end of that thing, you've seen it in the movie. The movie is not as, the movie's more and more veer away from the book. But there's a great line where the guy sets himself on fire, and he runs off the cliff, and he's falling, he's burning to death and falling to death. And, and Gandalf says, so the guy setting himself on fire here. There's a hobbit.
So passes Denethor, son of Ecthelion.
So passes Denethor, son of whoever he said, right? The guy completely flamed out after trying to light his son on fire. He went mad with the whole thing. And so, this is what's happening to Trump, right? He's losing his shit. All right, so let's get back to it here. So Candace is going to say negative things about Trump in this video, her most recent video, where she does an interview. And she then pitches this here.
Got a friend in skincare, visit NIMIskincare.com today. And telling you guys about the new film, Melania, from Amazon MGM Studios. Melania is a new film that takes you inside the 20 days leading up to the 2025 presidential inauguration through the eyes of the First Lady herself. So step into her world.
Melania and Mandis. Mandis promoting Melania, right?
As she orchestrates inauguration plans, navigates the transition, and moves her family back to the nation's capital. History's biggest stage on the biggest screen. Melania, only in theaters on January 30th.
Okay, so she'll sell anything, right? She'll sell anything. She's selling that piece of shit. Now, everybody's up in arms about this. She's getting comments and getting slammed for this all over social media. On top of this, debacle that she's created here. And, this stuff with Mitch Snow, which she seems to be bailing on, and now she's moving to this other guy with JFK and this secret, corrupt policeman's ball bullshit, right? And so she's all over the fucking place. And people are kind of, realizing that she sucks because she fucking sucks, right? And, she's just said Trump is deep state, and she's promoting this piece of shit movie, this fluff piece about Melania. I mean, I can't imagine this thing would be, only if you're going to mock it. Like, it's something you'd watch if you're going to mock it. She's so fucking weird, Melania. People don't like her either. Like, it's like the same thing. She's like the Erica Kirk of Trump, right? She's, like people don't like Melania. It's just because she's married to Trump. And people are bailing on Trump. And she's saying all these things about Trump. Her viewers are over Trump because of the Epstein things and all the rest of it. And Trump's flaming out. And you're going to take this fucking money from MGM Grand and Amazon and promote this fucking piece of shit movie? You want to say what you're doing is not about money, and then you're going to do this? Right? Like, how fucking much of a sellout are you? And in this show, okay, so in this video, she has World Jewish Congress President Trump. She has a section just on shitting on Trump here, his relationship with Israel.
And speaking of that, Trump, let's get to this headline, Jerusalem Post. The World Jewish Congress President Ronald Lauder is involved in Trump's push for Greenland. Here we go. So we were all wondering, why are we talking about Greenland so much?
Yeah.
It's like, why is Greenland suddenly fetch?
Right.
What were your thoughts on that?
My thoughts were exactly what you just showed. If there's not some sort of financial interest for some sort of donor or some sort of supporter, Trump has not shown. It's interesting we talk about this.
All right, so they're shitting on Trump here, right? In the video that she's pushing Melania, this movie, like it's so fucked, right? It shows you like she has no fucking moral compass, no integrity, and she just doesn't give a shit about her viewers and what she looks like. Like she doesn't, I guess she cares because she does stuff to make herself look good to her viewers, but she's just throwing it in their fucking faces. Like it's just so bad, right? Like she's got a whole section here about Trump invading Greenland or trying to take Greenland on behalf of interests that have to do with Israel. So she's saying he's an Israeli shill, which he's been talking about now for a while. But here, go watch his wife's fucking movie about his great inauguration. Like it shows you these people are all bought and fucking sold, right? Like they don't do this like any sense of, I want to do this because it's the truth. I want to be truthful and honest, right? And so, this is, who she's always been and who they all always are. This is why I say anybody who's in the show has been bought and sold, right? You have to sell yourself to get into the show. Like that's what, there's a price, and it's your integrity, it's your own opinions and what you feel about things. Those things disappear. As long as you can voice your opinions, as long as you run them through your handlers first, right? And she talked about having handlers, and having handlers from Israel, and all these things that she, was saying when it was convenient for her. But, they should talk about her and Charlie Kirk being handled and all these people, they assign you handlers as soon as you start becoming popular, which, we all know that, right? It's everybody with a microphone in front of them has to be owned in some way. They got to make sure they control you. That's what I said about Erica Kirk. If you're gonna murder Charlie Kirk, you better make sure you have the widow on board. The grieving widow. You better make sure she's on board, and you better make sure the jilted the jilted work friend, in quotes, Candace Owens is also on board as well, right? With Egyptian planes and all these other things. How quickly she got off Israel when it was, about Charlie Kirk, and moved to Egyptian planes and the French Foreign Legion and now some corrupt cops in Dallas that were responsible for the JFK murder and Mitch Snow and all these other fucking things that she talks about. There's something here that I clicked on here. Let me just see if I can find that. Okay. So I've said in a video, Candace Owens is the rabbit hole. This is, and somehow when I turned this video on or came on or wherever it happened, this was in the beginning. And she says this.
Baron Coleman here in studio. Guys, just get ready. It's an exceptional amount of rabbit holes that we have to jump through today.
Okay, you don't have to jump through them. And you don't jump through them. You descend into them, right? There's no bottom to them. That's the whole idea about rabbit holes. This comes from, Alice in Wonderland. And what you get in there is insanity. You're descending into hell, right? And, Alice in Wonderland is the movie was kind of fucked, the Disney movie, and it didn't really do justice to how crazy that the book is, right? And it was the guy who wrote it, whoever that guy's name is, don't care, don't tell me, don't need to know. He was a heroin addict or using heroin, and this was all part of it. It's like a drug trip and all the rest of it. And there's no truth in the bottom. You don't find truth at the bottom of the rabbit hole. You're digging through the dirt. There's all these different, little, side holes and like little trails and things, and it never get to the bottom of it, right? And that's what Candace Owens does. She just keeps dragging her willing dumb fucks through these rabbit holes. Although, it's less and less now. She mentions rabbit holes like 3 times in this thing, because I searched for it because I knew I'd heard this somewhere. It was right in the beginning, and I think maybe later on she's talking about it as well. But she is the rabbit hole, and rabbit holes are, if you're searching through rabbit holes, you're not really looking for truth. You're looking for madness, right? Because that's the reference point, right? That's what you find. The Mad Hatter, right? And so, there's that. Okay, so, and popularity or, there's a lot of dumb fucks out there, right? But, the fact that her fans are even bailing on her is a big thing. So this thing's only got 1 million views, which, of course, for her, which she used to get 3 million, and she averaged like 2.6 or 7 million before that. But here, you see here, World Jewish Congress president allegedly behind Trump's push for Greenland. The World Jewish Congress president allegedly behind Trump's push for Greenland. But here it is, preborn Nimi skincare, and then the Melania movie. She has an ad for it right fucking here, right? She's putting it in the description box because she does that with all these things that she's making money from, right? Like she's, and everyone needs to make money. I don't mind people making money. This is a job. I say it all the time for myself. There's some people who are like, you should do this for free. Yeah, should I? All my knowledge, all my time, my energy, there's energy you put into making these videos. It's a job. Like this is work. And you have to be compensated. Like unless you're independently wealthy and you can, just do it on your own. Yeah, that's great. For those people who can do it, sure. Candace Owens, she has money. She has whatever it is. But I don't, begrudge her making money. But what you can't do is you can't look at this stuff. It's so pretentious. Like she's so fucking everybody look at me, right? But what you can't do is shill for something that you're actually criticizing. You can't like slam Trump for being owned by Israel and then pitch his wife's movie. Like you can't do that. Like, I mean, you can, but you can't, right? And you shouldn't. And so the views are showing up. She's had 1 million on this, 1.4 million, 1.7 million. This was a big thing with her trying to come back to Fort Huachuca. But again, these things with 1 point something million in these videos, and she's going back to all the way to here, where she came back from being off air. She had 2.2 million views, and people were waiting for her to own up to the debacle that was Mitch Snow. And before that, she had 3.3 million, and these were all over 2 million, right? This 4 million, 3 million, 2.4, 2.6. These were Erica Kirk stuff, all that kind of stuff. And so she, her videos have dropped in their view count because people are, realizing she's going down the rabbit hole all the time. And this popped up. So we'll get to this in a second. To complete my thought here, what I was saying is she's going down a rabbit hole, and there's no end to it. And she's just doing it for everybody to look at me, right? She doesn't have a point. She doesn't have a worldview. She doesn't have something she's pushing out there. She's doing everything for views and for whatever it is. You have to treat this like a business, but you also have to have like a point of view, right? You have to have some, principles. Like people are coming to you for some reason, because you have more knowledge than them in a particular area or something, right? They're looking for your analysis. They're looking for your perspective. They're lost. They're looking for something. My big thing here is connecting to divinity within. And that's, to me, the most important thing, right? So, and you have to stick with that. And so if you're going to take on advertisers, I haven't done that and no one's offered and I don't want to do it and I'm not a businessman. But if you're going to do it, they have to be consistent with your message, right? Then you look like just a piece of shit shill. And then the rest of the stuff that she's doing. So this popped up today. And it must be, I don't know when it's from. But it's Don Lemons and Candace Owens. I don't know if he's on her show or she's on his show. He's on her show because there's Candace. There's an old interview they did together, which someday I may, it's two annoying people. I like Don Lemon more than, I can listen to Don Lemon. I mean, he's really stupid, but his mannerisms and his other things don't bother me as much as Candace's stuff. Which is, odd because he sucks so bad. But here,
Christians suffered too. In fact, we are the most persecuted religion in the world. I am so sick of there can only be one
look at him laugh.
Victim narrative.
Candace,
and if you start talking
about
a
Christian, and we are
Christians
not
are
the most persecuted in the world.
That is a fact. Do you know what's happening in Armenia? Do you know what's happening in Nigeria? Do you know what just happened in Canada? The fake story that was propagated by all of the mainstream networks about the
Oh my God. So you don't give a shit about Christians in Armenia. You don't give a shit about your own audience and your own people. These are all selfish narcissists. And this is all going to segue into the Megyn Kelly thing, and then I'm going to cover this at the end, what this represents in terms of, more depravity and more the descent into the truth community. But anyways, this is a fucking mess. And they don't care about people. Like Trump doesn't care about you, and you don't care about your audience, and none of these people care about anybody. Like everybody look at me. Everybody look at me over here. I'm saying things. I'm doing things. Look at me. I want to be seen. And for some reason, that does something for them. Like they're so empty inside that does something for them, right? But if you're going to care about persecution, what difference does it make? Religious persecution. And remember Don just saying he's a Christian now. Of course, this is all relevant to what's happened. But you're going to talk about religious persecution when nobody gives a shit about other religions getting persecuted or other people, right? Like, I say this all the time. When I used to mock Britney Spears, there were people that would show up, right-wing dopes, and they would get all offended that I was mocking Britney Spears. And, she's broken and she's been abused. And I'm like, well, so has Lady Gaga, and so has Cardi B. Like all these people, all these celebrity women have been abused. I mean, some of them have stories, and they talk about their abuse, right? And they all have, but you didn't care when I was mocking them. So you're not mad at the behavior, you're mad at the person. You're mad at the target, who I'm targeting, because you identify with Britney Spears because you're white and you're Republican and you're blonde or whatever the fuck you are, right? You're Southern or some kind of thing. You identify with her. But you didn't feel bad about it. You liked it when I was mocking these other people, these other female singers and other people. You just don't like it when I'm doing it to Trump. You liked it when I mocked Biden, but not so much what I did to Trump, right? And so if you're against the behavior, you're against mocking. You whine about it. Oh, you're being so mean, whatever. But you weren't saying that when I was doing it to people that you want me to mock, right? And so if you're going to be against a behavior like religious persecution, there's no, well, we get to be victims too. What about the Christians that are religiously persecuted? Like, it's just, this is what I'm talking about. Nobody understands this. Like, if you're against evil shit, then you're against it in all forms. But that's not what these dumb fuck Republicans are doing, and they're the ones in power. When the Democrats were in power, I was talking about them, right? Because they were doing the same shit, censorship and all the rest of it. The COVID stuff and all the stuff, the fucking slamming anti-vaxxers. I mean, all the shit that Biden did. And so if you're against these behaviors, you're against them even when the people, your team is doing them, right? Like if you want, like all these people who who boo the refs when the refs make a bad call against their team or a controversial call, but when they see a controversial call for the other team and their team benefits, they don't boo then, right? It's only when the refs screw them over, not when they're not against the refs screwing the other team over. This is the way it is. People are so subjective in their, they don't have any sort of character about, character qualities and any sort of integrity about, let's be honest and let's be fair and let's have justice. People don't want that shit. They want to whine about their group and their people and how they're being victimized, but don't give a shit about the other people who are being victimized.
And they found the mass burial, which allowed 85 Catholic churches to be burned to the ground in the last 3 years in Canada. So I take great offense to you coming in here about the sensitivities of the people that are working on your show when I'm sitting here telling you that I'm a Christian and I'm offended.
She's offended. She's offended. She's so offended. She's offended with her offenses. I'm offended by a Christian. I'm so offended. It's all fucking fake, right? She's so fucking offended. Okay, so, some of this always has to be about Epstein, right? For Trump. But he's really imploding, and we got more shit already for my next video, which I'll be making tomorrow. But here.
Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show. There is big drama in the world of David Beckham. I mean, I don't think we've ever begun a show that way, but boy, there really is. And Michelle Obama is disappointed in us yet again. She really, really doesn't like the fact that...
So this is Don Lemon's lie, sad, and narcissistic leftist and Beckham. So she brings on like fucking this Woods guy. Let's go to the Don Lemon thing. So this is the next day.
Democrats were not complying, and they were conspiring against people's rights. So anyway, it's just an interesting way to think about it.
Wait, let's go back a little bit because...
Territory. But if it's like a multiple, if it's like your third violation under the FACE Act, that's how they throw grannies in jail outside of abortion clinics. But I think the reason we're talking about Klan Act charges is because those are all felonies, and it's very serious. And no one wants to be charged with that. And it's really not, it's sort of analogous to what happened in the South when we were trying to desegregate it. And the government was trying to make that happen, and local citizens, Democrats, were not complying, and they were conspiring against people's rights. So anyway, it's just an interesting way to think about it. Potentially bad news for Lemon, especially if he's taking legal advice from Minnesota's far-left Attorney General Keith Ellison. I mean, that guy, like, it's been a long time since I've practiced law, though I remember it well.
I remember it well, when she was being murdered by O.J. Simpson, right?
He's actively practicing law as the Attorney General of Minnesota right now, and he doesn't seem to understand it at all. He thought, for example, that FACE Act ended after protecting abortion clinics. Isn't that just so leftist? Like, okay, as soon as I'm done hearing what's good for my side, I'm going to close the law book and pretend nothing else is in there. It's...
Yeah, like, you don't get to talk about your side and their side because Donald Trump is like fucking a nightmare right now. and he's been a nightmare. As soon as he didn't release the Epstein files, I mean, it was really the fake assassination attempt, because that's that's a Trump on MAGA crime. Like, he's doing that to the MAGA people, right? And maybe, some independents, but that was, into stupid people. Like, that's here, let's take advantage of the fucking retarded. So it's for stupid people. So she went at it with Trump when she asked debate questions. Remember when she was on Fox, and he said she was bleeding from her eyes and her whatever. Remember that? Like, that whole thing. It was weird. Trump's always been weird too. But Trump's a piece of shit. And that guy shot this woman in the face. And there's no way to walk that back, right? That's what I'm going to get. Let's get in. Let's watch the rest of this, then I'll say this in a voiceover.
Sad, though, because he's the state's top law enforcement officer, and he doesn't appear to know his legal ass from his elbow, which, of course, we knew when we heard him on tape appearing to conspire with fraudulent Somalis about how he was going to have their back.
Again, like that Tim Walz thing is a non-story. Like, I had the comment I read where someone's like, I can't believe you're not covering that. Yeah, you fucking dumb. Like, how stupid are you to think that I should cover that over Trump? Like, what do you think is a bigger story? Well, who do you think has more power? Trump is by far the most corrupt motherfucking grifting guy out there, and I don't even cover him that much. I mean, it should be known if you guys can't figure that out by now. Anyways, let's switch over to voiceover. She's not saying anything here. Let me see if there's anything else on lemons. Let's end with this piece of shit here.
I know what you wanted to hear me say is James Woods is going to come on. He's going to rip Don Lemon a new asshole. Not that I'd be the first person to have done that, by the way.
Gay joke.
Anyway, but the bottom line is this is all a dog and pony show. It's a trick. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about.
Look at James Wood telling fucking Megyn Kelly that she's been angry about something that's a...
Ever see the movie The Patriot with Mel Gibson? At the end of The Patriot, the militia guys, the hardworking colonials who want to build this beautiful country, stand on the line against the British regulars. They have no chance of surviving. They break and they run over a hill. The British now, they've got them. They're going to go over and slaughter them all. And as they come over the hill, the entire colonial army is waiting for them and wipes them out, sends Bannister Tarleton to Yorktown to hide with Cornwallis, and they end up surrendering to Washington, and America is born. I am a ninth generation descendant of one of the patriots who was one of the...
And it's amazing that you're one of those Freemasonic motherfuckers. What's weird that you that you became a successful Hollywood celebrity and you have that kind of background. It's just so strange.
Militiamen at the Battle of Cowpens, which was just a few days ago, short of 245 years ago. It was in January of...
And thanks for not saying spoiler alert. I was about to rent The Patriot.
Of 1781. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because they were a diversionary tactic. Don Lemon, a journalist. I mean, this guy, a journalist. Here's another soundbite for you. They're going to love this one. Don Lemon is the dingleberry hanging off the ass of American journalism. Okay?
Boom. Way to bring the dingleberry jokes, you.
Okay? And let me tell you, when CNN got rid of him, they didn't wipe hard enough. But all of that's colorful, and it'll be a headline tomorrow, I know, everywhere.
No, it's not. No one gives a shit about you. Fucking, you're trying to make it sound like people care about you.
Not as good as Nicki Minaj, by the way, and they can't deport me because my family's been here.
She brought it.
Oh, she was great. James Woods and Nicki Minaj. Whoever would have thought? Two peas in a pod. Anyway, my family's been here since 1721. So
yeah, he knows about being a patriot.
I have a pretty good chance of not getting deported, I think. But here's the bottom line: this is a trick. It's a diversion. This small man, Don Lemon, is, he was aware of everything that was going to go on. Oh, we're MAGA coded. He knew all the strategies because he planned it. He wasn't just embedded. He was literally one of the ringleaders.
Oh, my God. Like, how do you talk about him being a jingleberry on the ass of journalism and talk about him being a small little man and then say he's a ringleader? Like, if you're going to call it a distraction, the whole thing's a fucking distraction, right? You fake fuck. All right, let's switch over to a voiceover. Okay, so going back to the title of Megyn Kelly's video, Don Lemon's lies, sad and narcissistic leftists. So I want to read you the criteria from the DSM-5 of the diagnosis of a narcissistic personality disorder. Number 1, grandiose sense of self-importance, overestimating their capabilities or holding themselves to unreasonably high standards, bragging or exaggerating their achievements. So, you ever notice Donald Trump doing that, like, all the time, right? We're the greatest people, I'm the best guy, this is the best thing, we got the best numbers, all those things. Frequent fantasies about having or deserving success, power, intelligence, beauty, love, and self-fulfillment. Belief in superiority, thinking they're special or unique, believing they should associate only with those they see as worthy. Now, this applies to pretty much every famous person, right? Like, so, narcissism runs rampant in our society, and we all have some of it. And Donald Trump has more than anybody. Like, he's just the epitome of this diagnosis. Fragile self-esteem, frequent self-doubt, self-criticism or emptiness, preoccupation with knowing what others think of them, fishing for compliments. Does that sound like anybody, right? A guy who just went up there and said, well, they didn't give me a Nobel Peace Prize, so I'm not going to be peaceful anymore. Right? Entitlement. Inflated sense of self-worth, expecting favorable treatment to an unreasonable degree, anger with when people don't cater or appease them. Does that sound like anybody that we know, right? I mean, these are all things that Donald Trump exhibits on a daily basis. He thinks he's the greatest guy in the fucking world, which we know. But he wants everybody to give him compliments and fawn all over him and give him everything that he wants. And when he doesn't get those things, he turns on him and he goes ballistic. And, he just expects like this special treatment. And he talks about how people are so mean to him all the time and never understands the way that he treats other people. Willingness to exploit others, consciously or unconsciously using others, forming friendships or relationships with people who boost their self-esteem or status, deliberately taking advantage of others for selfish reasons. Again, lack of empathy, saying things that hurt others, seeing their feelings, needs, or desires of others as a sign of weaknesses, not returning kindness or interest that others show. Frequent envy, feeling envious of others, especially when others are successful, expecting envy from others, belittling or diminishing the achievements of others. He doesn't like, when speaking of John McCain, he doesn't like his war heroes that were captured. He likes his war heroes that weren't captured. Arrogance, patronizing behavior, behaving in a way that's snobby or disdainful, talking down or acting condescendingly. So Donald Trump does that more than anybody we see in public life. And so it's clear that the guy's narcissistic. If you don't know that, you're 100% in denial, but also you can't really assess anybody. And so for Megyn Kelly to talk about how liberals are narcissistic, which many of them are, certainly all the ones, Chuck Schumer and all these, Nancy Pelosi, all these people, they all have this. They have some form of narcissism. It could be the borderline personality disorder. It can be something else. They're all egotistical, selfish people. And we live in a country that narcissism is like almost a prerequisite. It's something that, it's a part of our existence. So, with all that being said, this guy has it more than anybody else. And he's imploding. He's clearly not acting in a way. So there's two things here. Like, if you still think that liberals are the fucking problem, then holy shit. I got nothing for you. If you can't see that, this has nothing to do with liberals and liberalism. This is, not that the liberals are the solution, but that, this is really bad what he's doing. And he's going against all the things Republicans are supposed to stand for. Number one, state rights. He's bulldozing states in some areas, like what he's doing in Minnesota, but then capitulating to the state with Charlie Kirk assassination in Utah. But he's a big government motherfucker. He's increasing the military spending budget by half, right? Another $500 billion, and it's going to be more than that when the wars kick in. He's spending money all over the place. He gives all this money to Israel. He's increasing the support for these foreign wars. Again, not an America First guy, which is what he ran on. Not a guy who's just about fixing America. He's all over the globe getting into all these things. You know, he's getting rid of these agencies, but they're agencies that monitor big business, right? He's grifting like a motherfucker. He's taking all this money. He didn't release the Epstein files, which is a major red flag. But all the things that these so-called patriots believe in, democracy and all these other things that they supposedly believe in, the Constitution, he's trampling over all of it. He's not a Republican in any way, shape, or form. He's a dictator, and all these pieces of shit that, you know, they know better. They can see what he's doing. They won't admit it, whether it be this fucking James Woods guy or Megyn Kelly or all these other people, even to some extent, mostly Tucker Carlson. I mean, mostly Tucker Carlson and mostly Joe Rogan. They offer slight criticism. And even Candace Owens, who's shilling for, you know, Melania's new video yet and still criticizing Trump with Israel. But none of them are saying this is a 5-alarm fucking fire. This guy is the enemy. He is what we fear liberals would be. This is what we thought liberals might do. I mean, he's pushing some like conservative talking points, or he says these talking points, but the way he's acting is the kind of thing that traditional Republicans and conservatives would be completely against. He's not a Christian in any way, shape, or form, claims to be one, but clearly doesn't believe in God or any of these types of things. I mean, he doesn't know anything about the Bible or any of these things. He just says he says what you want to hear. He's the opposite of what these people say they believe in. So they should be like, holy shit, we got to fucking, address this. But they keep on doubling and tripling down. And even if they start criticizing him, they still criticize everyone else worse. And he's bringing in martial law, which is a major red flag, and wanting to get rid of constitutional rights and rights to due process and trample over your rights. He's stealing from the poor and giving to the rich, and not millionaires. He doesn't give a shit about millionaires. People have, $700,000 or $1 million. People make a lot of money to everyone else, but, not really for him. He's doing it for multi-millionaires and billionaires and trillionaires, and and himself, he's enriching himself more than anybody else. And so he's the opposite of all of these things. And it's right in your fucking face, and you're still not. I mean, everyone should have this 5-alarm fire, because he is running the fucking country in the ground. Donald Trump's the biggest threat to all these things, and yet and the Epstein files keep on being distracted from. I mean, it wasn't Charlie Kirk murder. He's done one thing after another that has created, drawing attention away from the Epstein files, right? But they keep on coming back around. And so, I talked about this at length in some of my previous voiceovers in the last couple of videos. And so there are two things that have been dumbed down and corroded and corrupted that are a big part of my existence: the Sajmark system, my spiritual practice, and the organization, and the truth community. Those are pretty much the two things. I mean, I don't have much left anymore, right? My kids and, my birth family, right? My relatives, I don't have any contact with anybody. I've built a new life with my wife, but other than that, I have the truth community and, the Sajmark meditation. Sajmark meditation has been 100% corrupted in this thing called heartfulness by a dysfunctional, narcissistic leader who is, worse in some ways than Donald Trump, because it's about spirituality, but some ways better. This guy is just fraud, clown, dodgy. And then the truth community has been infiltrated mostly by right-wing dopes and, the people that used to be here. Now, I don't listen to other truthers and the people I used to listen to. I've gone beyond what they used to. I don't know where they are now or what they believe now, but I've gone beyond them, right? The people I used to listen to, I used to listen to truthers. But they were so much better than the stuff that I'm seeing now. And they would have called out Donald Trump and his bullshit, and, maybe still are. I don't even know where a lot of these people are. Some of them are even dead. And, the majority of truthers back then, and to my understanding, the ones that I knew about, would have called bullshit on Donald Trump because they didn't believe in, the Republican Party, or they weren't right-wing people. They were left-right paradigm. They would have called bullshit on this fake assassination attempt and all this other thing. But those people are gone, and they've been replaced by right-wing truthers that YouTube promotes all the time, which is a major red flag. And so that's a real fucking bummer. And I've handled that relatively well, and the fact that the heartfulness debacle, the Sizemore system, turned into this heartfulness kind of cult for dumb fucks that nobody really wants to be a part of because Dodgy's such a piece of shit, and he sucks so bad. He's a horrible cult leader. You can't even pull that off, right? So, with an audience that was there. And I mean, this was, my hope for humanity, and I still think it can be turned around, but not in an obvious way, and maybe not something I even see in my lifetime. And so two things I really believed in have gotten just worse and worse over time. I mean, where it's hard for me to even look at. They've been just completely corrupted, and they're turning into, like, the equivalent of becoming a golem, like in the Lord of the Rings, another reference to the Lord of the Rings. I talked about, is it Denethor earlier on in the video, so that. But turning into a golem as an organization. And so just my precious and just getting like fucking goofy. And so, I've seen this over and over again. That's why it kind of bums me out. I mean, like I'm relatively positive, and I believe the system has to be taken down, so this is all God's work, and that there's no way around that, so that's, just reality. But still, it's, everyone has their human feelings and things that just don't go the way that you hoped or thought or even considered a possibility. I mean, I could have seen the truth community getting corrupted because they clearly were going at war with real truthers, and they're trying to replace them. I mean, even to the extent that CNN and MSNBC are trying to do truther podcasts and other things like that. But it's been replaced by, a dumbed down, shitty version, controlled version of these, organic, more authentic people. This, this new wave of truthers. And whenever I get in contact with it, or whenever people talk about it in the comment section, I can't believe that this is the way that it's gone. That this is how bad it is, and this is what people do and think. I was talking about that woman the other day who was kind of leaning towards maybe believing in the fake assassination of Trump, but couldn't get past the fact that he would have had to take a bullet in the ear. I mean, just like, what's happening, right? There's ways that technology really suits me because I have really poor handwriting. Like, I can type without looking at the keyboard if I went back to writing, which doesn't look like I'm going to finish my trilogy. I have the second, whatever. But, I mean, the other technology and the video technology and a lot of things, it suits me really well. And, there's things that are good about all of this, in terms of, like, so many things that we have now. Technological breakthroughs that make our lives easier or whatever it is. And yet, I know that the Wi-Fi hurts me, specifically everybody. It's bad for everybody, but, all these things. And I know how it's making us weaker and worse. And so it's a mixed bag. But there are amazing things about our life right now. I was talking to my wife about how when you need something, you can just look on Amazon, and a day or two later, the thing shows up. And you can order things. And, all kinds of things that wouldn't be available in most civilizations, right? Our economy and this thing. There's great things about it in terms of, things that can make your life easier. But aside from that, this civilization is imploding, and the people just keep on getting worse and worse. And the more you find out about the harder it is to be positive about it, only to the extent that it'll be a good thing when the system is taken down. But holy shit, when the system does come down, it's going to be like a fucking horror movie on steroids. Like, we can't even imagine, what it's going to be like when the system finally comes down. And even though it's a good thing, it's going to be like a fucking nightmare. And so that's where we're at with all these kind of things, right? And there's nothing more indicative of this, of these fucking pieces of shit that I just covered today. Like, this is like what end times shit looks like. But anyways, there we are. All right, I'll continue this on tomorrow. Only spirituality will save this world. Its paramount, definitely point for the apocalypse. And the ascension, everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.